Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. Today workshop is about user interface, UI design. This workshop is not just for designers, it's for founders who wants to know more about their product, whether it's an app or a website. It's very important for you to understand your website design and what's the step that you need to go through before you launch. So we're going to talk about this today, and we're going to talk about branding a little bit because it's very important. It's a big part of UI design. A little bit about myself. I've been working in the advertising and design industry since 2014, and I have over 7 years of experience in visual communication, advertising, and design. I'm very, very passionate about everything creative, especially filmmaking, UI, UX design, and definitely branding for new and existing startups. So before we start, what you're gonna need, I want you to take some notes because we're gonna have an exercise in this workshop. So you can pick your tablet or your pen and paper and write down some of these things that we're gonna go over, and then you can do the exercise with me. All right, let's start. So what is user interface design? User interface design is purely digital practice. It considers all the visuals, interactive elements of a product interface. When I say a product, I mean a website or an app. It includes the buttons, the icons, spacing, typography, the colors, the responsive design. The goal of a UI design is to visually guide the user throughout the product's interface. It's all about creating an interactive experience. And the most important things, it should not require a lot of thinking when you use the app or the website. Interface is the means in which a person controls the software application or a hardware device. A good user interface provides a user-friendly experience, allowing the user to interact with the software or the hardware in a natural and an innovative way. So the UI design transfer the brand strengths, transfer the visual assets of a product interface. So this is an example of an app that I worked on. I'm gonna take you through some of the methods that are used to create this app. Another example is this website. So one thing that I wanna talk about today is how important to have your brand guidelines ready. You don't have to be the designer of the logo or the identity of the product you're working on, but you need to understand it. You need to have your guidelines, you have to follow it. So for example, Med Cafe, it's based here in Jeddah. I took their brand guidelines, understood it, the colors, the fonts, all the things that you use in their branding, and use it in their website design. So, a great product experience starts with the UX followed by UI. Both are essential for product success. If you imagine a product as the human body, the bones represent the code, which gives it structure. The organs represent the UX design, measuring and optimizing against input for supporting life functions. And UI design represents the cosmetic of the body. It represents the senses, the outer shell. So you're gonna ask me, what's UX? Today's workshop is based on UI. We're gonna talk more about branding and the visual aspect of a product. But if you don't know what's UX, you can't create the UI. UX design basically is the process of designing digital or physical products that are useful, easy to use. They need to be useful, easy to use, delightful to interact with. It's about enhancing the experience that people have with the product, with the device, or with the app, or with the website. and it's making sure that they find their way in the easiest way possible. So you guys don't get confused between UX. UI, user interface is visual and interactive. It's all about look and feel, design research, brand and graphic development, user guide, storyline, animations, anything regarding look and design feel. That's UI. UX, user experience, it's people first. It's the interactions, the people interacting with the product. Strategy and content, competitor and customer analysis, wireframe and prototyping, testing, execution, and analysis. There's so much more to UX, and I recommend before you go into UI, you read more about UX design. Sorry, let me share it again. Okay. So a lot of people always ask me, I'm not a designer, I'm not a UX or UI designer. Why do I need to understand UI UX design? Like I said in the beginning of the workshop, it's if you're a founder and you are working on your app or you're working developing your um, website, you need to understand this process. So when you go to the developer or when you go to the designer, you know what you need to request from them. You know what's a good UX, you know what's a good UI, and then you have the um, desired product, and you're saving a lot of money. Once you understand the process, you can save a lot of editing, and you're gonna understand how to hire the right people for the right project. So it's very, very crucial, very, very important for start founders to understand this. Do we have any questions so far? Because we're gonna go into a different part right now.
There's someone that cannot hear you. I'm just making sure that everyone else can hear you.
Can everyone else hear me? Okay, perfect. Anyone has any question about UX or UI design? We'll have more, well, we have another chance at the end. Um, well, Dina, can you take notes of some of these questions so we can answer them at the end of the workshop?
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna go into the next part, which is visuals. Branding is very, very important for your project or for your brand or for your company. We're going to go through some of the principal designs when you start designing for your product. It's not how you design for your brand identity. It's more about, it's the next step. So you have your brand, you have your logo, you're ready to go. Uh, you want to start your website design. You want to start your app, but you don't know where to start. What makes a good design? How you give feedback for your to your designer or your UI designer. Here's some principles that you can use and use as a reference whenever you want to give feedback. So there's 6 principles of design, and we're going to go over each one of them, explain it. I'm going to give you some examples as well. So we have unity and harmony. Unity and harmony has to do with all elements on the page visually or conceptually appearing to be belonging together. Visual design must strike a balance between unity and variety to avoid any dull or overwhelming design. For example, you have all these circles. They look the same, but the text is different. The icons inside of them are different, but still there's unity. It feels like all these designs look similar, but they're not the same. So this is one of the principles that when you apply it on your website, you're gonna you're gonna get the feeling of a great branding or a great you'll make it look like you understand what you're doing, even though you're using the same thing in the same place, but you do some changes and you're good. Balance is straightforward. There should always be equal distribution. This doesn't always imply that there is symmetry. Balance means you have your eye is directed to the things that you want them to go first, but still your eye is comfortable when they're looking at the page. For example, here you have an image and then you have a headline and then you have a text. It's the same thing here. You have an image, you have a headline, and have a text. This is balancing the page. Hierarchy. So hierarchy shows the difference in a significance between items. Designers often create hierarchies through different font, size, or colors, even placement on the page. So you can show what's more important, what's first to look at, what's more important, what part of the page you want the user to look at first. For example, here we have the headline. It's the same size as the body text, but by changing the colors, you just made it more important, and your eyes gonna be you're gonna look at it first before you look at the body text. So this is what I mean by hierarchy. It doesn't necessarily mean this part is more important. You just want people to look at it first. Scale and proportion, straightforward. Scale is the size of one object in relation to the other object. Proportion refers to the size of a part of an object in relation to other parts of the same objects. For example, text. It's the same thing. It's this kind of the same font. It's the same. It's placed in the same line. But by making this bigger, you just immediately saying this is more important. This is what you want them to look at first. So scale proportion is very, very important when you're designing with only text. But you can do the same with images. So if the headline is more important than the image, you make the headline bigger. But if the image is more important, you make the image bigger and then the headline smaller. Dominance and emphasis. Dominance focuses on having one element as the focal point and the other being secondary. This is often done through changing the size, the color, position, or even the shape. So an example would be the font here. You have a very big font and very small text around it. Again, that means you want people to look at this first. This is dominant. This is what you want people to read first, understand first. This is what we're presenting this page. Similarity and contrast. To me, it's one of my favorite principles. Similarity refers to creating continuity throughout a design without direct duplication. Contrast focuses on making items stand out by emphasizing different design or colors. For example, this is represent similarity. These are the same. These are three images of flowers. They look similar, but they're not the same. And then contrast, you're having four different boxes with four different colors. It shows contrast, so it's different. It stands out. You're highlighting something here by changing the colors. So we just went real quick over the principle of designs. Do we have any question for principle of design before we test them? All right, so we'll go. So how are we going to test it? uh, I'm going to give you two websites. Pick one of them. First one is Airbnb. The second one is Noon. Pick one, and I want you to find three of the principles in these websites. So you can take a screenshot, share it with us in the chat, or you can type it down and saying that I noticed that Noon is using these principles. So I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to do that, and then we'll share my my finds, and then I'll share yours as well. All right. So anyone wants to share what they found? You can share it on the chat. I think you can share an image. Mariam, can they share an image or unmute themselves to share what they found?
Can you please advise? Can they share an image? I think sharing would be difficult because you're the host, but let me double check.
Okay, no worries. So I'm gonna share what I already prepared. I found these when I checked these website. There's Unity and Harmony in Noon's website. Basically, they're using the same circle icon. It's the best way to create these visuals when you have an e-commerce. So it looks the same, but still the text is different. The image inside the icon is different, but it gives it this harmony feel. They understand. This makes them look like they understand their branding. Scale and proportion, by changing the text size, your eye is drawn to this. You read it first, you read this second, and then this is third. So this is from Airbnb, and this is one of the best way to use quotes in your website or an app. Dominance and emphasis, I think Airbnb use this smartly. They want you to check availability first. They want you to know the price second, and then you see the rating last. And they want you to click on check availability. So they made the colors different. It's bigger. It's the dominant in this design. So so far I think we have one question about shapes and why is design important. Um, Miral. So Miral is asking, which is why UI and UX are important for those who don't use it or aren't designers. So, like I said, Miral, it's very important if you're a founder or anyone who wants to hire a designer to understand the process. So you understand who's a good designer, so you don't waste your money, you don't waste your time hiring someone who doesn't understand the process. You interact with like you have a really smooth interaction with the designer if you understand the process. It's going to be easier to give feedback. It's going to save you a lot of money when you don't do more than one or two edits, for sure. So Sumaya is saying she found an Airbnb, they use balance and scale. That's really good observation, because this is one of the main things the Airbnb uses in their platform. They use scale and they use scale and proportion very, very well. That's why their website is one of the best in terms of UI design. All right, so we're gonna start in the last part of this workshop. It's more about branding. I want you to have a feel and understanding of branding and identity. So you know, because like I said in the beginning, it's big part of UI. If you have a good brand, you have a good font, you have a good color, you have good colors, UI is going to be so much easier. It's going to be a smooth process to create your product. Just so you know, I added a lot of resources here, websites that you can check and download resources from. But don't worry, I'm gonna at the end of the workshop, if you stay for 3 minutes, I'm gonna share a PDF file with all the resources so you can use it. All right, so iconography. When designing an interface, it's critical to match the mood and layout with an iconography. Picking the right style of icons can't always be easy. So my advice would be keep it simple and clean, clear. Make sure to select the right style for the right platform. So what I mean by right style for the right platform is if you're designing for an app, you need um, bigger icons and less details, because on your phone you won't be able to see the details. On your website sometimes you can get away with having more detailed icons, but definitely not on your app. And I added two different resources here. The Noun project, they provide you with a lot of different icons and they're all for free. And you just type whatever icon you want to find. For example, you can type clouds and you find so many different styles that you can download. Colors. Why are you using this color? Why are you using red? Why are you using purple for your brand? You always need a reason to use a certain color and it has to represent your brand. If you have a brand guideline, use it. Use it, use it, use it. And go online to find other complementary colors. For example, purple represent energy. Purple represent trust. Orange represent energy. There's so many different colors and with so many different meanings. So you need to have a reason why you're using this color. So one of the reasons that we pick a certain color is to set the desired mood, reinforce a branding message, create contrast and harmony, and create a comfortable reading experience. So how do you choose your colors? Like I said, you have to understand your brand. If you're using blue, usually in medical companies, they use blue because it represents trust. And for other companies, like anything that deals with greeneries or plants, they use green because it's the best color that presented. So the relationship between the colors you choose um, is as important as the colors themselves. The reason is as important as the color in itself. I added this website. It's one of my favorites. Adobe Colored. So it's a wheel. You can if you have one color for your brand and you want to add another color but you don't know what to pick. I wouldn't recommend going with green and red because now these colors represent Christmas. So you have a green color and you want to go with a different color. So you can use this color wheel. It helps you pick complementary colors. And I added two other more websites that can help you do the same, but it's with different methods. And last thing, we're going to talk about typography. Um, these are the points that you need to follow when you pick your typeface. Readability, spacing, clarity, mix and matching fonts are very important. You need to be careful by when you mix two different fonts, they need to work together, they need to complement each other. Consistency, consistency that means if you have a font in your brand guidelines, always use the font you have in the brand guidelines. Don't change the fonts. If you have one or two, stick to them. Buy your fonts. I usually don't put this in my presentations, but I think if you're a founder and you have your own company, you should buy your font. So you have a unique font that not everyone else is using, and you can just own it. It's yours. You can publish it. You can advertise with these fonts, and you own it. So I added two different resources. Google Font is very good when picking fonts for online platform or online products like a website or an app because it tells you these websites, these fonts are usable on any platform. So just real quick, before we go into the final part, I just want to say that UX is essential, but UI is what people see. UX is people interaction. UI is what people are going to see when they use their website. A very important note is people spend less than 60 seconds on a website. If you can't keep them for more than 60 seconds, they're not going to stay on your website or your app. So UI design is very, very important. Useful links, I added all these links as well that you can use to download UI kit, product design, the color wheels, I added them here. And these are some of my favorite articles